But right now, speaking of legal immigration, Trump did speak about legal immigration just this morning on Maria Bartiromo's Sunday Morning Future show. Take a listen.
Do you have a message for the people who are trying to come to America legally and they're still waiting?
It's so sad. It's so sad. You have people that have been waiting for 11 and 12 years, and then you have other people that just walk through and everybody wants to give them amnesty. But the bigger problem is this. So many of those people are criminals. We're a laughingstock all over the world. They are opening up their jails, and they're opening up they're taking MS-13s off the street. I took them out by the thousands. ICE. We love ICE. I love ICE. They fight. They know how to fight. They like to fight. But they love our country. And you put them into what they call a rat pack of MS-13, probably the worst gangs in the world. They use knives because it hurts people more. You put them into that, and it's a rough deal.
But there are people who are coming here legally, and they're waiting for years to get their citizenship. So do you have a message for those people?
Yeah, stay there, because we want people to come in. Just so you understand, I want people to come in, but they have to come in legally. That's going to be stepped up. You know, we need more people, especially when these companies are coming in. We're going to have companies, but they have to come in with love for the country, and they have to come in with some competence.
Yes, we want legal immigration. And Trump's perspective is he's talking about people that have applied for legal immigration. They come from another country. They are not connected to any other citizen here at all, but they want to come and they want to be part of America. Well, look, there's people that are actual U.S. citizens who have family members who are being barred from the country and barred for years. And that's the story of my brother-in-law, Dave Ives, and my sister-in-law, Marietta Ives. And so Dave joins us now from Australia to talk more about what's going on and legal immigration and the broken immigration system in the United States. Dave, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Jeanne. I'm right here in Alice Springs, Australia, listening in.
Wow, what a clear connection. This is awesome. This is so great. So David, you just wrote a book called Lockdown Australia, Pandemic of Madness. And I love your preface because you say it's not a medical advice book. It's not a reference book. It's a story, my story, the story of what I experienced during the so-called pandemic from early 2020 when the politicians closed the Northern Territory border until August 2022 when my wife and I left Australia to live for a year in Mexico. I'll consider this book a success if by reading it, others are encouraged to write their COVID stories. We need to hear the stories, all of them. It's through our stories that we create a rising tide of truth that will drown out the lies. I couldn't agree more. People need to not forget what happened during COVID, not forget what the authorities did to them. But unfortunately, David, it feels like you're still being punished for simply wanting to leave Australia because they became an authoritarian state with no freedoms during COVID. So could you bring my listeners up to speed a little bit? They are familiar with your story. You've been on my show before. I've written about it in my newsletter. But tell us essentially, you know, what happened and where you are with it right now.
Yeah, what happened was it's pretty basic with the COVID madness going on. And our family, myself, my daughters, and my wife, refused to join the state religion and become COVIDians, branch COVIDians, and get the jab. So consequently, in Australia, if you wouldn't get the jab, you were sort of outside of society. No job, no leaving the house. As a matter of fact, there were two specific they call them lockouts, I think they were, and they were only for the unvaccinated. And they were 7 days at a time. And the second 7-day lockout, I told my daughters, I said, hey, girls, you don't have to put up with this. You have U.S. passports, you're U.S. citizens. You can go back to the USA and live in one of our properties in Florida. So they left. And then I said, your mom and I will be there in a jiffy because we just got to get Mom's green card renewed. And we had that conversation almost 3 years ago. And that leads into the immigration situation, which it's a 3-year process. I mean, I don't think we have enough time to go into the details on your radio program, but there's anything in specific you want to know about it, let me know.
Well, no, I mean, but you wrote, and also I wrote it as well, but basically Marietta's green card expired in 2003 because you had stayed in Australia too long working for a U.S. defense contractor. And you have to renew that green card annually, and generally that requires U.S. residents. Well, you weren't there. You were working for a defense contractor in Australia. And so you said essentially, look, we only need a tourist visa right now to return to the U.S. for short visits. And, you know, when the time comes to return permanently to the United States, we'll just get it renewed. I mean, after all, and I've written this before and my audience should know this, but you and Marietta together have filed over 30 years of U.S. federal tax returns as a married couple. You own properties, plural, in the United States. You have U.S.-born children, and you're a veteran. I mean, it should have been a no-brainer for you to get a new green card for Marietta since she already previously had a green card. And now you're looking at going on 3 years since your first application in March of 2022. This is insane.
Yeah, it is. You know, that was a good way that you explained it, because essentially, you know, to be a green card holder in the United States, this is the ideal setup. You live in the USA and you renew it every year. That's the ideal setup. Well, we didn't live in the USA. We were over here in Australia. I was working for a defense contractor, and essentially that, you know, it's hard to keep your green card if you're not living in the USA. I mean, I think that's fair to say that. So anyway, the card expired in 2003, and we didn't really worry about it, thinking, well, when we decide to go back to the USA, we'll just get it renewed. How hard could it be a no-brainer, like you said, a no-brainer. But essentially what happened is we start all over again, and now it's from the get-go as if she never had a green card. And what I found with illegal immigration, and I wrote an article about this, it's on my Substack, and it's called The Truth About U.S. Immigration. And I say it's an IQ test. It's an IQ test. If you apply to enter the U.S. legally, you flunk.
All right. Hey, Dave, we're going to take a short 2-minute break. We'll be right back to continue the conversation. Welcome back. Still on the line is my brother-in-law calling in from Alice Springs, Australia, to talk to us about this debacle, this fiasco with the U.S. Immigration Services. I mean, here they are, been paying property taxes, paying federal income taxes for 30 years plus. U.S.-born children, Dave's a veteran, and they can't get Marietta a green card when she had one previously simply because they were working and living over in Australia at the same time. Now, the worst thing is it's not even over. This is what's even more disgusting to me, Dave. And okay, about the same time that you put in your initial application to come to get a new green card for Marietta, so she could come in legally. You wanted to come in legally. Right. At the same time that you put in that application, Brittany Griner, the basketball star, got arrested in Russia on drug charges and was put in prison. 10 months later, Brittany Griner is out on a prisoner exchange that the U.S. facilitated. 10 months later. And now we're at almost 3 years, and you can't get your wife over here, and she's done nothing wrong. Nothing. On top of that, they've gone to the point where they're saying she had to get clearances from every country that she lived in, that she was not a criminal. But at the same time, we've let hundreds of thousands of terrorists and criminals collectively come into our country over years now. And under the Biden administration, easily 100,000. And your wife has to get documentation from countries she lived in that she's not a criminal. I can't believe it.
We had to get police clearance records from the UK, where I served with a U.S. government contractor, defense government over there on behalf of the United States. And I had a top secret clearance, so my wife had to be vetted to go there. I mean, it's ridiculous. But what you're seeing here, though, she had to get a police clearance from the UK, from Mexico. We lived in Mexico for a year to be nearer to the girls. And we figured, 1 year in Mexico, we're not going to be there a year. We'll have the green card before that. Well, when a year came up and we were nowhere closer to getting the green card, we thought, well, what do we do now? And we decided we'd go back to Australia where things had calmed down, from the COVID times. And I have work to do here. I have a business and things to get done. So it's actually better for us to wait in Australia to get the green card. But the system for the green card, the legal immigration system is a one-size-fits-all. And there's your problem. So when Donald Trump was talking about waiting 11 years to get in, well, I guess maybe that's where we're headed. But I think my wife and I are reaching the point now where we understand that when you apply for a green card, the answer could be no.
I mean, this is crazy, though. This is
We're
absolutely
starting to face
crazy.
the fact that they could say, no, you're not coming in, stay away. You can keep paying taxes, though, on your worldwide income. You can do that, but don't you dare come in the country. Don't you come and live here with your daughters in your own home. I hope you can tell I'm a bit frustrated with this.
Well, no, I'm frustrated with it. I just find it insane. And by the way, you contacted your local congressman. He was no help. I contacted a senator and a congressman on behalf of you. They couldn't do anything. Nobody can break through this bureaucratic red tape and say, welcome in. I mean, we want competent. You're not even going to be a public charge, for heaven's sakes. And they won't let you in. Instead, I mean, if Marietta had just used the CBP One app for schedule entry, she would have been in within weeks, right? If she had been selected.
I don't know anything about that.
Well, I mean, that's what the illegals use. They get on the border. They put that app on their phone, the CBP One app, and they get a scheduled day of entry at a particular border station along the U.S.-Mexican border, and they just get asylum and they come right in. Okay, they just come right in.
Would you send me the app and I'll fill it out?
Yeah, I think you should do next, honestly. I mean, and she wasn't selected for a free ride on a chartered plane to the city of her choice by the Biden administration. He flew in 350,000 people that way. Literally, they applied to have a charter flight pick them up in their godforsaken country.
How do we get on one of them planes?
I don't know. And you didn't just simply cross.
If you can find that out, Jeannie, let me know.
I know. This is the absurdity of it. I mean, it's people could laugh at this, but I don't find it laughable. I find it pathetic. Now, the latest thing is, and you can maybe tell my audience a little bit more of that, the latest snafu for her is that she didn't get the jab. She didn't get the COVID jab.
Right.
And so now they're saying she has to go through a whole vaccine waiver process. And
that's correct.
And you wrote to me, you said basically mere mortals can't figure out the entire paperwork. You had to hire a lawyer in California to help you with the paperwork. And now they're telling you it could be another 28 months.
28 months for a decision, yes. Here's what it says on the United States immigration website. It says, we process 80% of our cases within 28 months. Whatever that means. I mean, is that hysterical? It's like they're bragging. Look how fast we are, But let me get back to the situation. I mean, the reason that we were leaving Australia is that we didn't want to get the jab. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. So now what happened was we had an interview in Sydney for the green card. You have to have an interview, which we have already had back in 1991 when Marietta got a green card. We already had the interview. But anyway, we went to the interview earlier this year, and it was February 13th in Sydney. And the guy behind the bulletproof glass with his Burger King microphone, he says, well, I can see that you didn't get the vaccines. And it's a whole list. It's not just the COVID jabs. It's a whole list of vaccines, I think 7 or 8 of them, plus the COVID jabs. And you must get all of them. You must either have had them or get them. And, of course, Marietta refused. That was the whole reason we were going to the USA, to get away from all this forcing people to take, medicine. We're getting away from that. Mm-hmm. So Marietta refused, and the guy says, well, since you refused the vaccines, your application is automatically rejected. So after 2.5 years of applying, we got rejected in Sydney. And I told you this before, but by being rejected, Marietta now has to put on any visa form that she fills out, which it used to be a snap to go to the United States for 90 days at a time, easy. There's a question on it that says, have you ever been denied a U.S. visa? She's going to have to check the yes box now.
Simply because she wouldn't get vaccinated the way that the U.S. government wants her to.
No, well, simply because she was denied her green card visa, which in a roundabout way is because she wouldn't take the vaccine. Yes. But if you're denied for any reason, you have to tick that box. So she now has to tick the yes box. So, what does that mean for her entering the U.S.? It can't be good, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I honestly think you should try the CBP One app. I honestly think you should. Like, what the hell?
Okay, well, you send it to me.
Play them for the fools that they are. I don't know, just go to your Play Store and download the CBP One app and see what it says when you can enter. And, I don't know, across from El Paso or wherever else, Eagle Pass, Texas. I don't know. I mean, this is
we lived
absurd.
In Mexico for a year. We didn't, and people were telling us, why don't you just go to the border and just go in? Well, we used to visit the U.S., though. When we were in Mexico, we visited the U.S., all the time with the girls. But at that time, we hadn't been denied the green card. Now, Marietta has been denied the green card. And, just continuing on with that, they said, but you can apply for a waiver. And we'll send you an email to tell you how to do that. And then they sent me the email. I looked at it and went, holy moly. And that's when I called this law firm out of Sacramento that claims that they're, this is what they do for a living. They're experts at it. And so I hired them. I said, can you guys help me fill out this paperwork? I said, oh, yeah, that's what we do. So,
oh, my gosh. I'm so angry about it,
Dave.
Finally,
we filled it out.
Dave, I only got
we finally filled it out. $5,000 later, plus $1,050 application fee to the United States immigration folks for them to put a set of eyeballs on it.
Well, we could solve half of the budget deficit if we charged every illegal who entered, the 10 million, 15 million who entered in the last 3 years, $1,000. I mean, that'd go a little bit of the ways. David, this whole thing is absurd. I've got a hard break now. Thank you so much for coming on. God bless you and Marietta. And we're going to do everything possible I'm going to raise holy hell with every person I know in Congress to get this solved ASAP. Thanks so much for joining me on The Real Story. We'll be right back.